Welcome back, everyone. Hope you've been doing well. Today, back in the powder toy this time. This time we're going to be reviewing and I'm going to be explaining all the different types of bombs here. So, first I'm going to start out with the three primary types of nuclear bombs. I'm going to define these as things that use nuclear elements that you might see in the real world. Of course, your first initial thought, if you know how to make nuclear bombs and stuff, is you would use uranium. Particularly uranium-235, that's not in here, so you'd use uranium. But uranium actually doesn't explode, it only generates heat whilst under pressure. So you can't actually use this to create a nuclear bomb. However, you could use plutonium in the game. It actually fizzles particles and generates neutrons under pressure, and I'll explain to you here in a minute. But for the most basic type of nuclear bomb, you just want a shape of titanium. I'm just going to use a sphere for now. You're going to want to hollow it out. You can do this by just not moving your cursor around. Of course, you have to make the shape, then you just have to shrink it down a bit without moving it, and then you just get that nice hollow area. And then, of course, you fill it with the plutonium. Most basic forms, it's actually already going off. I recommend you, while you're filling it, you do it while paused. You can do that just by pressing space, so you don't accidentally make it explode. You can fill it all the way if you want. It doesn't really matter. Well, it does. More plutonium obviously is a larger explosion. And then use two main ways you can detonate this. You can either add some neutrons if you don't want to use, if you want it to be a closed cycle and you don't want to have to do anything to it other than make some spark or something to detonate it. You can use neutrons like polonium. You can have it open a door to have polonium. It makes neutrons. See there. Ways to detonate this is you can either have neutrons, or if you want to do it more realistically, you can have something like TNT that generates pressure when it explodes, and then you have to, detonate it, and it just explodes. To go more in depth of this, instead of just having a neutron and some plutonium, or TNT and some plutonium, what's actually happening here in the game, to be clear, is detonating the TNT creates a bit of pressure here. You see on the top right, you see the pressure is at 8 right now, and this will then spread. The fire has nothing to do with it, by the way, or heat kind of does, but pressure goes into here, and these will start emitting more neutrons and more pressure and more heat. This then cycles. These would emit more neutrons, and then more neutrons, more heat, more temperature. As you can see, there slowly becomes more and more neutrons appearing. These all bounce around and react and create more and more pressure and heat until you get to a point where the plutonium is actually melting, where it can't react anymore, so it's not really necessary. Then you also get lava from it fusing, and then you also notice that it's very hot and there's lots of pressure, to a point where this pressure and heat eventually melts the titanium in letting all this pressure loose, but it also allows the plutonium in explosion to kind of escape the sphere. And then of course you see a little pressure wave going on, and then very hot particles going on. This will also affect the ambient temperature. I will be using that from now on. And you get this nice little explosion. I don't know if I have anything in my saves here. That would be a good representation if it's destructive power. I might just use somebody else's save. Actually, heal. Hold on, here we go. A little bit of armor I made, meant to represent tank armor. It ain't tank armor. That's gonna let you know that's not what I wanted. I wanted primary there, and delete there. A more efficient way of doing this, instead of TNT, of course, just adding a single neutron. If you press semicolon, you can enter replace mode, by the way, which instead of creating an element except for where there's an element, you actually don't create elements only if there is an element. Well, it places things. You only really need one neutron. And then that bounces around a bit, creates an explosion. Yeah, these are pretty destructive. I went through almost a sheet of armor. Well, it actually did. But there's other ways to do this. However, using titanium is necessary, not the melting temperature really, but the air pressure part of it. Because I use something like iron, it actually lets some of the air pressure through. So I get some plutonium in there, make some neutrons. It does still explode. I think iron's probably a bad representation of this. Let's just use brick. Man, I done did it again. Gotta get this centered. Just eyeballing this. Okay, there we go. This one picks it down. But really the key factor of this is trying to pressurize this or add neutrons to this without pressure escaping. If pressure does escape, it won't explode as efficiently, or just won't explode at all. There are multiple ways to make these so-called nuclear bombs. Do be a reminder, if you were to get a ball filled of titanium, filled with plutonium, and just shot some neutrons at it in real life, you wouldn't really get the explosion effect you're looking at. It is probably just gonna like melt the ball or something and make a lot of radiation. So don't use this as a realistic way to make a bomb. It won't work. Another way to do it, however, is deuterium oxide here. Again, I don't think this will work in real life either. Just to be clear, I'm not going to tell you how to do that. So, same with plutonium, is you fill el ball here with deuterium. Fun thing about deuterium, though, is it actually compresses the colder it is. I have the ambient temperature set to very cold right now. If I can scale it up to the classic 22. Okay. So, it's solely compressing because it's cold. If you were to pressurize this one, nothing's going on. It's just gonna be pressurized. However, if you were to add neutrons to it, mine is actually compressed. The more compressed it is, the more effective it is going to be. Just so you know. Then if I put neutrons in here, it's going to bounce around the same and create a more efficient explosion, as in there's going to be less the physical molten particles and more neutrons, in this case representing radiation, I guess, and more heat. So if you're wanting more heat and just more efficient explosion, you can use deuterium, even though it's a bit finicky to work with because of its temperature scaling. But it's also easier to work with, as in it doesn't interact with pressure. So, just easier to work with. If I were to fill this with deuterium, there's another way to do this. And then instead of manually cooling it down, adding more deuterium, cooling it down, adding more deuterium, actually go into this property drawing tool, and then go to the, pretty sure it was TMP, the TMP value here to set this to whatever high number. It was not the TMP, I'm pretty sure it was life. Yeah, just go to life. Yep, and it gets really bright and glowy here. But now if we add neutrons, it's going to instantly explode with a much larger, more powerful explosion. Many more neutrons and much more heat. And pressure, of course. So it entirely disintegrated this. But you can make more bombs. I think that ought to be it for the nuclear ones. You can make like a realistic nuclear bombs if you'd like. But that's kind of the gist of them. But our titanium sphere isn't over yet. It still has more use to it. 4, you can also use exotic matter. Let's get some exotic matter in here. Then you have to get like an entry point for all the electrons are going to fire at it. Open these up. The electrons do get absorbed by the titanium, so preferably you'd want something non-conductible like ceramic, rock maybe. Alright, electrons, I'm just gonna fire a bunch of them at it until it eventually explodes. I think it stopped itself. Yeah, it certainly stopped itself. It's just spraying hot exotic matter everywhere now. Look at this. Yeah, it does not want to work with me here. I'll drain some of the exotic matter out, maybe. Because currently titanium is melting and flowing over the exotic matter to a point where it doesn't want to explode. These don't seem as powerful. They certainly are more powerful and can penetrate stronger armor for same kind of heat and stuff as a deuterium bomb. However, it releases warp, which can be very powerful in getting through most armors. The only issue is it's kind of difficult to explode. However, of course, you can just use the property tool to explode it manually. What property would that be, though? TMP, it looks like. I'm going to set this to some random high number, and kind of gray now. I don't think it was a TMP. Ah, it's the TMP2. Well, I said it's life, so TMP? Yeah, TMP is just how glowy it is, but the TMP2 is the explosiveness. Oh yeah. It also makes a lot more pressure, too. Looks like for this one it didn't do much since it wasn't very close. Let me scooch it up nice and personal. But there are a few, yeah, it's like entirely singularity now. There are a few types of armors and stuff that are difficult to punch through, so you have to use something like warp. And that's just a good way to get it. Okay, where are the bombs? Oh, there's plenty of other bombs. Okay. Just use a conventional bomb now. So here we can get some TNT. I'm just going to use a casing of TNT instead of titanium because they're obviously much weaker and aren't really capable of penetrating titanium. Well, some of them are. Depends on what you put in them. So for now we're just going to use a casing of TNT. This doesn't matter. But if you want more of a fiery effect that sprays more fire everywhere, you would kind of add like a small layer near the outside edge of coal, or broken coal. If it was normal coal, it wouldn't go anywhere. I want to make sure that you're paused while doing this too. Okay. And then you want something else that, like C4, not very special. It doesn't really make much pressure. For now, I'm just going to use TNT because it makes more heat and pressure. So, another layer of TNT. I'm just going to use TNT as like a barrier. Now, here you're going to want something that's going to fly out and be, well, and here's what you want your main heat source to be. Behind the coal, if you have it, or near the edge. It's going to be fused powder for me right now, because it's burns to plasma, which is very hot. Then here's going to be kind of your pressure or just anything of choice really. But at the very center is where you want all your pressure stuff. So I'm going to use fireworks here, because they actually make lots of heat and pressure, but more importantly they fly outwards, kind of acting kind of like a cluster munition of sorts. But they don't make fire immediately, and they have to be detonated by fire. So at the center, you certainly don't want these at the center. What else should we put here? Oh, you could use thermite here as well, because it makes much of the hot. Yes. By the way, bomb and dest, more destructive bomb, these are kind of cheaty. I'll get on that in a bit. Most people say they're kind of like cheat elements, or a cheat element. You could use thunder. It makes tons of, I'm just gonna use thunder. Let's just copy this for now. See how this goes. Yeah, it went about as I expected it to. Again, with the firework, they kind of held back the explosion there. As you can see, it kind of gets stuck at the firework and fuse powder, not doing much, and then the firework starts detonating, and you can see it all radiating outwards. If you want to fix this, if you're kind of like copying my design, I would recommend adding kind of like a fuse. Not an actual fuse, but I would recommend using something like TNT. And heads up, you can middle click to pick block, basically, or pick the element. I'm still going to want something that has a lot of fire here in the center. Good solution for this if you're looking for like an igniter or fire, just C4, the basic explosive. So now we're going to copy this one, see how this one goes. So it detonates, and the entire thing detonates now. That's what we're looking for. And then it radiates out. There we go, a bit more efficient, a bit more heat actually reaching the things. Of course not perfectly efficient, because none of the pressure could get to the fuse powder or broken coal for it to fly out. But I'm not going to optimize it. It's just some explosives. Yes, dest and bomb. See, bomb is, even though dest, I'm just going to call it dest, is called more destructive bomb. Bomb is actually more destructive, surprising, because bomb, basically what it does is it will, let's see if it touched down, make a sphere around it of things that it just destroys. It'll make some pressure, and then of course very hot embers that will then fly out and make everything around it hotter. But the reason why this is more powerful, because it can destroy things that other explosives can't. Types of armors. For example, there's a type of vibranium armor that isn't destroyable by most things, even though by default it doesn't really, well, it doesn't melt. Obviously you can't get it hot enough to, because it absorbs all the heat. It doesn't break under pressure, even though it absorbs the pressure. And for some things, dest goes through it, but main thing is it absorbs pressure, so dest isn't affected by it at all, and it just deletes a few particles. However, bomb doesn't detonate, apparently. I think they fixed it, or I'm just thinking of this wrong. Is that the TMP2 of dest? Okay, one sec. Is it TMP2? I'm confused now. Not TMP2. Not TMP. Life. There we go, it was life. It goes into this state where it doesn't really absorb. Well, it absorbs stuff, but it doesn't explode, which is used for armors a lot. I thought bomb would touch this, explode, and it would just make a sphere. Apparently not. So, I think I thought of this wrong. So, doesnt is really good because it just goes through everything. However, bomb will go to the surface and create a sphere around it where it will destroy stuff and some collateral damage. So, okay, never mind then. Lightning. Lightning is very useful in bomb creation. Why? It's just lightning, you may ask, but look how destructive it can be. Another big thing is it goes through things. So, how you utilize this in a powerful bomb is you would get something like an outskirt thing. TNT for now. Then you'd want to get something else like, not bomb, because they detonate on it. Something in the center, like thunder. Then you're going to want to get breakable clone. Which may seem weird, but if breakable clone gets a lot of pressure and then breaks, it becomes a powder and flies out, still creating whatever it was set to clone. So you can use this in a powerful bomb. I'm just going to fill. Then at the very edge, we're going to set it to lightning. Set all the lightning. For lightning, you can't really set it as a cloning thing. So you're going to have to go to property tool, the C type, lig, then just fill that. Now it's on lightning. We're also going to do one for firework. I'm going to do another for bomb. I'm going to do another for fuse powder. Actually, just do it directly plasma. It's not at all like super powerful either. What else? What else is destructive? Virus, there we go. For virus. And another for something like, I don't know, acid. And another for something like coal. Broken coal. And finally one for something like fire. Actually, we already have one for fire, that's plasma. Thunder. Cool. Now, it may look simple, however, now if we detonate it, it is, not the friendliest. So, I'm gonna actually go check out someone else's thing. If you don't know, press bottom left button. Here's the main menu where things are recently added. And here's like the top of all times. The best thing created was just destroyable city. I'm going to use the nuclear bunker by Commander Inuyasha. Of course, the decorations and stuff. Turn those off for now. Then test it on this. Oh. Will I'd be standard. Well, if used properly, these things can be extremely powerful. You'd most likely see them in the Azure bomb things. Let me see if I can find an example of them. Azure Lotus. Yeah, there's a lot of people that just focus on extremely powerful bombs. Here's one of them. Well, this one actually uses the gravity bombs. Oh, I need to show you. Okay. A lot of things I forgot to mention. but you can make some pretty powerful things. So we're gonna focus on proton bombs now, because I entirely forgot to mention those when saying the deuterium. So deuterium has two ignition methods. Of course, you have the classic neutron one. Blast some neutrons out of it, it explodes, pretty powerful and whatnot. But then you have protons. And then you blast these on it, and they kind of make a bunch of protons, etc. Except they also have negative pressure, not a huge thing. It's like, you may be wondering what's so special about this. Why is this important? Because if I were to get a big wall of quartz, something that's very good with temperature. So just big wall of quartz here, then get some neutrons in there. It explodes, but it really only melts the very surface of the quartz. It's a lot of heat, but in one little area. If you get something like protons, they move through stuff. So now all these protons transfer the heat through all the quartz, and now you have this massive crater that's all melted. This can be even more powerful if you, of course, set them to a higher life, just like the deuterium one. So now with neutrons, after you had kind of a cluster effect there by spreading it out a bit, make a little bit of meltage on the surface, but with protons. Whoa. Wasn't expecting that. You get these kind of sphere effects for some reason. Not sure why. But the entire thing is just molten. Entire thing is gone. Almost. Now it is, I think. But yeah. These can be used in very powerful ways. They're actually surprisingly powerful if you use a gravity for them. So white hole makes Newtonian gravity. Then I'm going to set this to the TMP. You can use the TMP to kind of edit the strength. A bit more powerful. Actually, more powerful. I do not, actually. Then we're gonna get the protons. They become particularly powerful if you use something like gravity here, and you kind of like make a heat ray if used properly. And then there's gravity bombs. Gravity is often used as a kind of a booster, I could say, for other bombs. Of course, you have the GBMB, which is literally a gravity bomb that it will touch an object, stick to it, it'll make negative or positive gravity that'll suck everything, and then a strong burst of negative gravity that will blast everything out. It's good for powderizing stuff. Get some brick here. GBMB. Entire thing is powderized. Just one of them does a lot too. But they can be very, very dangerous. Another thing that can be dangerous in powderizing stuff is the DMG damage thing. Where is it? Here. Because it does quite a bit of pressure and stuff. The reason why gravity is so powerful and dangerous is because it can blast a particle, let's say lightning clone thing, far away from the original bomb, that will allow it to reach deeper into a, let's just say, bunker, without actually being affected and still having all of its heat and pressure with it. Next up here we got snow. Headphones died, which includes my microphone. But anyway, so now we're going to work on snow singularities. Got another type of advanced bomb. This one is actually kind of interesting because you can like not have it explode if it's like very cold. Like most people use it as like a thing they make for like reactors or cores or whatever. If it gets over this temperature, it just explodes with these. Because of course it's snow, and once it melts, it turns into, well, the singularity. But I can actually bring up a reference real quick if I can find it. It's in here somewhere. Oh, I used it in this bomb. Here's a reference of a very powerful bomb. I say powerful. Of course, you got a bunch of snow singularities here. Or these are just singularities. Set to explode. Some fuse powder here. The exotic matter. Thunder for pressure. Fireworks for some reason. Or something, I think. At the center, of course, you got deuterium. Neutrons. Protons. But we are interested in what's at the center. I don't think it's in this one, actually. Not bad. Not bad. I know it's in this one, though. Right? No. This one? No. I have a lot of bombs. Ah, it's in this one. Of course, we can just take a... It's not in this one, actually. This is just singularity. Oh, well. I can see if I can do it on my own. Anyway, you get the property drawing tool, C-type, set this to sing. Boop, and then I think you gotta set the TMP to 1. And then, if it melts, it could explode. Right? No, it just melts into nothing. Okay, TMP at a ludicrously high number. Keyboard mashing go. Fire? Ah, there we go. So, if you get a snow, set its C-type to singularity, and then you melt it, then it... Well, set its C-type to singularity, and then set its TMP to some ludicrously high number, and then you melt it, it explodes into this. Which is kind of a mix of all the particles. Okay, what else is there? I think that might be it. There's cold bombs. Alright, anything cold. Alright, that's all the bombs you can make in the powder toy. Of course, not all of them. Let your imagination run wild for anything you could do. But, never forget, the strongest, method of destruction is simply right-clicking. See you next time.